the Coliseum was kind of hopping, sort of. It was mostly Nebraska fans who came to L.A. in the new world of the Big Ten and watched their team fall to 5-5, losing to USC 28-20. Kind of a back-and-forth game. I don't know what it is, if there's an allergy, if there's a force field. Nebraska, again, Chris, like, I feel like the younger listeners of the pod, maybe people who don't remember Nebraska at its heyday, the idea of this program going without a bowl bid from 2016 until now is, like, unthinkable. And they're knocking on the door of doing it again. They're now 5-5 after starting 5-1. So we got that. We got Jaden Mayava making his debut. He looked okay today. Not fantastic, but this game decided in the red zone. Nebraska 2 of 3 for 6 points. USC 3 of 4, 21 points. That's how you lose games. That's how you win games. We mentioned it with Georgia earlier. Chris, 9 straight losses playing for bowl eligibility for Nebraska. This is beyond the one score stat, which I hope you can give us a quick update on. That's like one of the craziest stats in college football. I don't like Nebraska. Just, it's one thing to not be who you used to be, but this bowl line is crazy to me.
So yeah, 9 straight losses with a chance to be bowl eligible, but it's actually worse than it sounds, because 8 of those games are in the last 2 years. The other one was in 2019, I believe.
Golly,
before COVID,
dude.
because
they
went 3-9.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, hold on. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. You keep going. You keep going, because I got a good question for Ubben in a second.
Mm-hmm. I'll update you on the one score. 28-20. We're counting this as a one-score game.
Yes.
4 in 21 in one-score games since the start of 2021, including now 1 in 4 this year. You knew USC Nebraska was going to be a one-score game. I think
it had to be.
I think USC was like 1 in 5 in those games this year or something like that. So, yeah, it just keeps happening. Like, they just can't get over the hump.
Wisconsin and Iowa ahead, by the way.
Which are both winnable and both losable. Like, man, if you drop both of those, I don't know. Damien, what's your question?
So, Ubben, I know we're just a week removed from our last conversation about this, but do you still believe in Matt Rhule? Like, just can we bring that up?
Yeah, because we've seen it. Like, I don't know what's going on with. I believe in him as a program builder. Can you sustain a winning program? I don't know. I liked, Nebraska wasn't in like the worst shape in the world. Like, you got some guys, you got some talent. Like, he inherited a decent amount. I didn't like the offensive coordinator hire. I think bringing in Dana Holgorsen, if they can hold on to him, I think will pay off for them. So yeah, I believe in him as a program builder, but he hasn't had to sustain it everywhere, because he built it at Temple and then jumped to Baylor. Built at Baylor really, really fast and then jumped to the Panthers. Didn't work out there and came back here. So I still believe in him. I think he can recruit really, really well. I think he treats people well, and when you do that, you generally have a lot more staying power in the business. And so I still believe in him, but there's just something about this program, the bad juju. I don't know what it's unbelievable, because you watch this team early on, especially early in the season. I tweeted this on Saturday. You go back to week 2 and you watch Nebraska just eviscerate Colorado. I mean, that game was 28-0 at half. Yeah, it got a little bit closer in the second half. Nebraska was playing pretty conservative. But if you would have told me that one of those teams would be 5-5 and one of those teams would be 8-2, I can tell you who I would have thought we were talking about. And it's crazy to watch those two programs go the direction that they have. It's
hold on.
Confounding.
So I do want to get back to my question here, because we're talking about Matt Rhule. Well, at least that's what I asked to start. And so what we're talking about is at Temple, at Baylor, starting at Carolina, end of Carolina, start of Nebraska now. I'm seeing a trend here, and that is Matt Rhule's. I guess it's the inverse of what you're saying, is him building cultures, and that's just what I have. That's why I want to ask you this. It's not because I want to sit here and talk bad about Matt Rhule. I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the stats. Most importantly, most notably, again, Nebraska started the season 5-1. So yes, you were on your way to building that program back up to prominence. But look at what's happened in the last 5 weeks, the last 4 weeks.
It's hard to believe, and I think they've been in good position. They're not losing games in hilariously dumb ways like we saw. They did it a little bit last year and kind of like under Frost, like the number of games that they were losing where it was just like, how did you lose that game? We're not seeing as many of those with Nebraska, but it's just like you're not really you're close, but you're just not quite there. And I don't know. I don't know, Chris, what's your feel for this situation? It's confounding to me because you watch Nebraska, they're not hilarious. They're not losing games in like funny ways. They're not bad. They don't, last year they didn't have a quarterback. They're trying to patch it together with Jeff Sims and Heinrich Harburg. They look more competent this year. They got a really good defensive line, but the results are not that much different.
Yeah, I mean, the defense made a big step up in year one last year. The offense hasn't come around as much as you would have hoped, but now they added a number one recruit. Raiola will get better. You see bright spots. You see true freshman spots. Daniel Holgerson in there today. They ran a lot more mesh. You could tell it was a Dana Holgerson offense. And there were some things there. And this was a weird game, by the way. This was USC had a couple of touchdown catches that were crazy. The whole thing was a little bit of a weird game. But look, if you beat Iowa or Wisconsin, you get to 6-6, you get to a bowl game, I think you're very clearly on a slow upward trajectory at that point.
Yeah.
So we still you can't abandon it yet. They still got 2 games left.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Damien.
Nah, I'm gonna save it for next week.
All right,
yeah, save it for next week. We'll probably be doing this again.
I know we're gonna be having the same conversation next week, but I'll save it until then.
I think they get it done next week. Wisconsin's got to pick themselves up off the floor after almost beating Oregon.